BBC were ambitious. They always wanted the show to be bigger. They just believed in Doctor Who. It's an old, fantastic tradition. The BBC had plans to supersize it. And here we are. I absolutely agreed with everything they were planning.
RTD, you're lying to me. Every word you say is laced with tons of gay. You gotta keep lying, cause the show is dying. Protect the BBC.
There isn't an official Bible, and a lot of it's in my head. I do know the entire television history, so there's a lot of flexibility. But yes, I do have a list of not a list of rules. The timelines got mixed up, and I'm a little bit more diligent.
RTD, you're lying to me. Every word you say is laced with tons of gay. You gotta keep lying, cause the show is dying. Protect the BBC.
Their lead actor needs to be limitless. I want someone who's good at everything and describe, and we've absolutely got that with Bishopï². It needs to feel very safe for a young audience to come and watch with. There's a kind of childlikeness to the Doctor that fits children.
RTD, you're lying to me. Every word you say is laced with tons of gay. You gotta keep lying, cause the show is dying. Protect the BBC.
Victimizers beware, the racist and bigots' greatest nightmare. Social justice warriors, get triggered.
It's the bias response team.
If you've been offended, your feelings must be defended. Your freedom of expression is a microaggression. Here comes Angela Frey. He's always ready to fight fascism with fascism.
Starbucks windows don't stand a chance.
Ethic enhancer. He's a systematic racism finder. Using the powers of screaming and shame, they win every debate by calling your name. They're heroes who think that they're victims. Social justice warriors. Get triggered.
Damn you! Sutek is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Damn you, Sutek!
This show ain't no good.
Start the car.
Hello, and welcome back. It is WhoTF Live, and you are watching Will of the Fans. My name is Will. See what I did there? What a shock. I know, it's amazing. And, of course, this is the show where we dissect and discuss all of the discuss, the dross, and the occasional decency from Doctor Who. Despite that maybe being no longer anything that's actually good for my channel. But we'll see about that later anyway. Of course, I am joined by the regular panel plus one guest who we'll get to in a moment. And that, of course, is Ryan Roderath, Golden Age Geek, and Rev, aka Dobby. Ryan, would you like to say hello?
Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and it's great to see you all watching today. It's great to see Will again. We couldn't catch him on Saturday Night Hypnosis because he was on a lovely holiday with his lovely wife and a little kiddo too. So
true story.
It's always great to be on this show, ladies and gentlemen, with Goldie and with Dobby. Price, haven't I seen you recently before?
Yes, you have.
See, look, now you can be on a show and see me in a more wholesome light because the bigot army have really radicalized me. So I've got to showcase myself without the bigot propaganda projected onto my massive forehead. See that?
The more sensitive you.
Yes.
The Ryan who plays the wholesome version of himself, the face turn Ryan. That's what we get on Will of the Fans. Yeah.
Yes.
In the Bigot verse, he has to like fend for himself. So
Yes.
yeah, has to bear his fangs a little bit. But there you go. Welcome back, of course, Ryan. Thanks for being here. Goldie, how are you doing, mate?
Hello. Yeah, it's good to be back here once again. Season 8. Discussing that will be very fun because it's a very mixed bag, maybe more so than season 6. So that'll be a fun discussion. I will argue that it's probably the most underrated of Capaldi seasons, and I think having gone back to it a few times in the most recent years, I've appreciated a lot of the stories a lot more. So that will be fun to discuss. So yeah, I'm all strapped in and ready to go.
Super. Sorry, did I robot for everybody just then? Because I had like a blip on my internet.
No, it was fine.
What the hell happened? Oh, okay. Well, everybody reloaded for me. Anyway, thank you. Goldie, Rev, how you doing?
I have a spoon. I'm ready to talk season 8 of Doctor Who with Peter Capaldi. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing great. Welcome back to WTF Live, where we talk all things Doctor Who, get totally distracted, probably start arguing, talk about big-ass creatures on the moon, and generally have fun doing it.
It's a geek out. That's what you need. You need to be able to do this stuff. This is what we're trying to do here. We you know, you spend 3 months of the year or 2 months of the year going insane watching the new shit, and you're like really annoyed and frustrated and confused and trying to make sense of it, and then you've got the other side of the fandom calling us all horrible names, and so then we're like, you know what, let's just watch some of the good stuff that we actually like and argue about things we like rather than things we hate, you know.
For example,
so that's why we do it.
Big spoons. Are you a big spoon fan or a little spoon fan? Put your decisions in the comments. Today's spoon
okay
day.
I'll leave it. Is it Spoon Day today, or is that an actual thing, or are you just full of shit?
Oh, it's from Robin Hood.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. The fighting with a spoon. Anyway, our guest of honor is here once again joining us. It's Price of Reason. Yes, 2 streams for you in the space of 1 day, my time. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on again. I don't know if you saw my text. There's some weird thing happening in my building, so if I disappear for a few minutes, it's not my audio. I just have to put out, like, not literal fryer, but you know what I mean? I have to just do something, and I'll be back in a few minutes. So
you've got, like, Antifa outside your house or something? Like, what's going on?
No, there was some work that needed to be done in the apartment, and the person was supposed to arrive, like, hours from now, and then he suddenly was like, oh, I'm here now. So I have to at least let the person in, you know?
Yeah, it's not a problem. We'll be going over the thing that I made a very controversial video about earlier this week, which I was kind of exaggerating and being a little facetious about, which was the casting of yet another non-white, non-traditionally British person in the cast. So yeah, we'll be getting on with that. But is there anything else you'd like to say before we start, Price?
No, just that I'm happy to be here, and yeah, even if I seem silent for a few minutes, I'll be back. I just need to make sure this thing is straight.
You do what you got to do,
and you'll
mate.
see me here.
I just wanted to raise this point, and I don't know if this is me being affected by the Mandela effect, but I could have sworn that Price's avatar was like flipped a couple of weeks. Like he's since flipped it. I could have sworn.
Yes, Mr. Brown from Mr. Brown Alliance reached out to me, and he asked me if I could flip it. I don't really know why. And then I did a stream with him when I was flipped, and I forgot to flip it back. So it's not a Mandela effect. You're right 100%. And I don't even know why I flipped it, actually, but it was a request.
What did it accomplish?
He still hasn't told me. He never explained to me what he accomplished, and he made it sound... He sounds very official when he talks, so I just did it, and I never really knew why.
I mean, it's not like he wanted you to be facing someone else on the panel or something like that?
Maybe that was the reason, but at the end, he kept on moving everybody around, so I don't even think that worked. If that was his idea, it really didn't go anywhere, but hey, you know what? I try to work with people, and that was... his dream was that I flip it.
Maybe it's so that when someone shares their screen, you're looking towards it instead of away from it.
I guess so. It's possible.
I was going to say, if it was anything involving like Photoshop or editing, like that's a very simple thing to do himself. So,
Oh, very, very simple. It wasn't difficult at all. It was no problem for me.
all right. Well, there you go then. That's a weird, quirky anecdote of the stream. I really appreciate it, actually, because that is bizarre. But I was wondering that myself. So, yeah, good to know. There you go. Before we crack on with anything else, attention must be paid to TJAB Steve, who has gone absolutely nuts and decided to gift 10 Will of the Fans memberships. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Which also reminds me, like the stream, subscribe, ring that bell, or else I will send Ryan to your house.
He's also used his 6-month member chat, and 6 months, that deserves something. Thank you, Steve. Very, very much Princess of the Fans' #1 fan, I think. Even more green for Princess of the Fans. It's all fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve. Well appreciated, mate. And you lucky people getting access to emojis and other episodes of our streams for free for a month. So there you go. You guys enjoy all of that stuff, especially as the member stream, the first member stream I will ever have done, is happening in about 8 days from now. So there you go. I will get on with that. In the meantime, all right, let's be honest. I made a video. I was talking about how Archie Punjabi has been cast to play a villain in series 15 or season 2 or season 41 of Doctor Who. And yeah, you know, I used it to be a little bit facetious, a little bit hyperbolic, and just sort of say, you know, oh my God, there's no English left. There's nothing, even though technically she was born in the UK. It's just, what's, you know, it's not the same as being really British, is it? You know,
it's the whole
white as a sheet.
Yeah, it's the whole blood versus soil argument that countries have been having in regards to nationality and citizenship. Whether you are born of the land or you are born of the blood, some countries have it fully one way, other countries have it fully the other. I just find it fucking weird that the soil doesn't give birth to you; it's your parents. So your origin comes from your parental origin, but try documenting that. It's an
I know. I mean, it is an ancient kind of discussion. It's like nature versus nurture, or anything else, like chicken or egg, or any of those other things that are deemed unsolvable. I mean, of course, there is a solution to most of these if you go deep enough. And of course, with this particular conundrum, the issue is, how far back do you go before you agree that you're not, you know, another race, another genus? Like if we go back 2,000 years, we're split in many different ways. You know, you've got Saxons and Celts and Romans and Normans, and all throughout history, Vikings, and you know, it's how it's happened. But I guess at a certain point we all decided that we are what we are, and that line seems to have been about 1,000 years ago for most of us. Unlike the people who have become British either through birth or migration over the last, say, 50 or 60 years, which is the central conceit of what I was saying. Is like, there's no British people in the cast. I was joking, but it does actually stem from, but exactly, you know, technically I am correct, but I was kind of sending it up because I knew if I start talking about it, I'm going to catch hell from certain people in the fan base who will come into my comments and tell me to go jump off a bridge, and they did, and that's fine.
One thing's for sure, though, Will, and I'm sure we can all agree on this. Doctor Who has embraced diversity of all sorts of stripes, especially in recent years, and it has been to the show's detriment, unfortunately, especially from an ideological perspective. And look at her. How much skin cream do you have to put on your face to look that white as an Indian?
I don't know. Like she wasn't that white when she was in Bend It Like Beckham.
No, she's much darker.
Yeah, it's interesting the way they've done this.
Skin cream.
I don't know if it's skin cream or just lighting or Photoshop or what, but, you know, whatever. I mean, it's not like she's an unattractive woman or anything, and she's a good actress too, actually. I mean, to be fair, the thing is, and also the role in question, I don't know what the role is. None of us do. She's a villain. Doesn't necessarily say she's the villain.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just open out there.
It says will star as a villain in season 2 of Doctor Who. Sources tell Deadline. BBC and Disney Plus series set to return, of course, 2025. BBC and Disney declined to comment. But then you read this last sentence here, and this is where like the sort of theatrical rage that I was portraying came out, because of course, I am much more calm and realistic in my day-to-day life, but that's not very entertaining, is it? So Punjabi joins Shooty Gatwa, Mizero, who currently stars as the Time Lord. Millie Gibson, who is part-timing it in this one, so she's not the official companion anymore, is she?
No.
Right? Because the official companion is Varada Sethu, who will serve as 15th Doctor co-companion Belinda Chandra.
But it's this idea that the BBC and not just BBC, but like Disney as well, they can't have like traditional actors or actresses. Now it's got to be, we're going to introduce you to the world, and if you say anything wrong, you're going to get cancelled and labelled, all of these different things. I mean, I remember when Remy Malek was assigned to be the Bond villain, and his first words was he didn't want to be a terrorist. He was very clear about that. And so when you see him in the Bond movie, he tried his best not to be a villain, and it just didn't work. But I don't know what to do with this, because it's every single time, they've tried drag queens, they've got openly transgender people. Now it's kind of ruining the whole show. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's a villainous character, apparently. So, okay, you're casting foreigners as bad guys as well as good guys. But the other thing is, it's like, okay, is anybody actually like what you would immediately think of when you say British in this cast? Like, because now there's like nobody who's traditionally
maybe British Empire, but not British.
Yeah, but that's different.
I think we're disconnected between what we think of as British and what is being presented as British, because we all of us grew up in a different timeline, right? But now to be British, it seems that the word British just means the whole world who just comes to live in the UK gets a job. But
to be British now basically means you just bend over and allow every single foreigner in the world to come over and fuck you until you bleed, It's basically how it is now. This is, of course, part of a larger cultural assault that we're all aware of, which is, of course, the Blairite way of doing things for the Labour Party, which stopped being about, miners and the less wealthy people in the UK and became about opening borders and turning the country beige, one by one. And it's worked to such an extent now that Doctor Who doesn't even have to try to defend this, because they can just say, well, it's reflective of the modern Britain. It's like, you mean the country that doesn't exist anymore? The country that's currently up in arms, rioting against itself because of foreigners coming in and stabbing children and stuff.
It's the brand new world that we're immersed in, where
it's a brave new world. The year is 1984. It's a brave new world, and if you don't like it, well, you're a Clockwork Orange.
I'm waiting for Starmer to bring in the new helicopter routine, where it's like if you post something, they're going to send the helicopter after you, like in 1984. And here comes a helicopter.
Just get out any way you can. If you know anybody who's got a plane ticket's worth of cash to loan you, take that loan and get the fuck out of there as soon as you can. I know it sucks. We'll just have to conquer another country.
They talk about diversity, folks, but when you look into the eyes of each of these diverse characters, they all have the same or very similar colored eyes. I've always found that to be disconcerting. Like every single one of them have blackish, brownish eyes.
Hey, I have brown eyes. Watch it.
So do I.
Watch it.
I live in Asia. Everyone's got black eyes.
No, I see your point there, Ryan.
And I don't mean being beaten by their husbands, although that does go on.
Like, this whole thing with the diverse casting and everything, the entertainment industry is a cult. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Everybody's pushing this rhetoric. If you want to get hired, you have to buy into the modern world. And it's a cult. You see it in the eyes.
This is it, basically. It's indicative of the country not looking like the country anymore. I mean, it's not even a small thing anymore. It's like the country barely exists anymore. It's literally,
especially England,
civil war.
Yeah, especially England, because at least in Wales, the only parts of Wales that do have an immigration problem are the 3 cities. Everywhere else, it's not an issue. The same with Scotland. It's only a problem really in Glasgow and Edinburgh, the 2 main cities of Scotland. In England, it is a widespread problem.
Every city.
Every major city, absolutely, and even into the minor
and towns.
cities.
Every large town too. Luton, and of course, I'm from Luton originally, and when I was growing up, there were parts of Luton you just didn't go to if you were white and English, because if you did, you probably wouldn't come back. And now that is how they want I mean, the thing is, yeah, okay, I'm an expat. I left. I packed my things. So a couple people came into the comments of that video I made, and they said, like, you don't have any right to complain. You left. I'm like, yeah, I left and integrated into another country where I have to respect their, sometimes insane to me, customs and culture. Because if I don't, you know what they tell me? Get the hell out. They literally will say that. That is their opinion of foreigners here. You're very welcome to come here. You're more than welcome to come and bring your foreigner money and stimulate the economy of the Philippines. But if you disrespect their culture, you're liable to get stabbed, shot, or, you know, beaten up or dragged into a fight, then arrested, jailed, and deported. It's the way it is. And actually, I don't mind it, because I think that's the way it should be. I mean, okay, I'm married now here, so I'm not quite a second-class citizen anymore. But I, you know, as a person who left his country and moved somewhere else, it's important to understand that this is not my country. The way things are here, there are a lot of things I disagree with, a lot of things I would change, a lot of things I would improve with some very simple steps. But that's not my place. So
well,
I just...
You could make the argument that Doctor Who's decline and Britain's decline could go hand in hand. And Britain is actually one of the few countries in the world that actually created a land that was more British than Britain. It was called Rhodesia, and then it was completely destroyed from the inside out. So there are many parallels between what's going on in the pop culture realm with that of the political realm, which is why I think what we should do as content creators is to follow the 3 steps to victory in highlighting the problem, finding solutions, and being the change we want to see, and use the things that inspired us growing up as inspirations to create greater projects, whether it's in pop culture or the political realm.
Yeah, I've been thinking of ways that I can use ideas I've had throughout my life, creative ideas that I can possibly one day create something with and actually give something back, you know, to fandom, to pop culture, by making something that's actually fun, interesting, and dare I say, with a little bit of masculinity in there as well. I'm washing around some ideas at the moment. But go on, Rev.
The UK's lost is that sense of masculinity, because everybody's now buying into the whole woke world where everybody's pronoun this, pronoun that. I was talking to a friend in the UK, and it's the very first thing they said to me is, what are my pronouns? I'm like, oh, fuck off. I just hate it. It's like the UK, much like here in America, has just lost its sense of masculinity.
Completely.
There is no more masculinity here in America. It's all a bunch of soy boys, and if you're not part of that crew, then, you know, you're part of the whole right-wing agenda, and everybody's going to be after killing you for it.
The vast majority of people in my area have been left behind for 40 years.
Oh, I'm moving to Wales.
Since the end of the age of industry in the 1980s. I mean, you talk about moving to services, moving to the digital economy. The places where I born and bred, haven't even recovered from industrial decline. It's like with Doctor Who when it died in the late 80s, and it was just abandoned by the mainstream for quite a long time, for a decade and a half practically, apart from that movie that tried to bring it back to life. We're seeing these kinds of parallels, folks, and we need to recognize that the majority of normie type people have given up. Why? Because they buy into the narrative control. There's very little damage control that needs to be made by the establishment, and that's why it's so important to have people to embrace the digital world, to embrace new technologies and new possibilities, and to understand that you are not alone and that we can hang together instead of being hanged separately. Showcase to the foreigners that they're nothing more than meat shields, and then they will go fucking ballistic against the people who are using them and who will soon toss them away as soon as their usefulness comes to an end, both in situations like this with Disney Who, as well as in wider events in the UK and the US.
Yeah. I mean, it feeds the perpetual kind of motion of this, where it's like, okay, Doctor Who has more non-traditionally British actors in the cast now because that's the state of the UK. Oh, it reflects a more multicultural, cosmopolitan Britain. And it's like, yeah, so it didn't always. You forced it and then normalized it. And now it's considered normal. But when you do it, it's still actually a little jarring when you think about it.
But is
because
it though?
83%, according to some know-it-all in my comments, 83% of the UK is still white. So I should stop complaining.
I'm like, though?
It isn't.
That's not what you see on TV, though, is it?
It really does divide according to nation, because the UK is not one solid place. It is a kingdom with different parts. I'd say 20% of the foreign population, or 20% of England is the foreign population, so 1 in 5. Across other parts of the kingdom, it's about 5 to 10%, so that balances it out to about 16, 17%. But yeah, it is a big problem in England, especially, and you saw that with the riots, because they almost exclusively were in English cities, a few in Northern Ireland as well. And it just goes to show that the UK's decline really does parallel with Doctor Who's decline, especially with Disney Who, and especially in recent years. That's why it's very important to point these things out and to understand that this decline is across not just multiple franchises, but multiple cultures as well.
I mean, I don't know why they still push this stuff. I mean, obviously, this is a great big problem we always end up talking about. It's like, why are they still going over and over with this when it clearly doesn't need to? I mean, how long ago was Goodness Gracious Me on TV, for example? That was like the 90s, wasn't it? Or something, or the 2000s? It was like, it was
I think
the
it needs
Indian
to be
sketch show, which is very much about integration. They were doing British style comedy, roasting themselves. I actually didn't mind that. That was 20 years ago.
I think the reason it's still pushed, and it's pushed harder and harder with less and less people watching it, is because the narrative control is a continuous thing. And as soon as they stop doing it, then their narrative is completely lost. Because despite the fact that more and more of our populations and more of our entertainment is being diversified, a lot more resistance is building up to against it. You see it in Britain, you see it in France, and you're starting to see it in Germany as well. As things are coming to a head, you really see it in the United States.
Oh yeah,
that's where it's being led.
When did the British become so weak-willed? You know what I mean?
Well, that's weaponized weakness for you. Because how do you fight weakness?
And here in America, it's all about, parents are just not allowed to be parents because the education system are enforcing all of this kind of gender politics. And I made that point the other day. It's like, parents can't even be parents. Then you've got a big ass problem.
Yeah, I mean, the systems are set up in place to demoralize.
Yeah,
this is the only goal. But obviously, I think if we continue to talk too much about it, we'll end up going down the rabbit hole of getting our channels flagged. But But
I
what
think
is
only
what
have
is
one
the end game here? To destroy and delete and replace the United Kingdom entirely, right?
It's the cultural desert,
Mhm.
the pop culture desert, and the desert of the real, to quote the Matrix. That's the end
Morpheus,
game.
yeah.
The end game is, in my view, the complete destruction of our popular culture, the complete destruction of our culture, and the complete destruction of our civilization. Doesn't matter if it takes decades or centuries. You could say this is a 60 to 70 year project in the making, folks, if you
Yeah.
go back
Oh, it is.
far enough.
It's longer than that.
Hmm.
It goes back to World War One. If you
Hmm.
actually really look at
It's a
where it started.
very our opposition have really been playing the long game, and we're only seeing the consequences of it now. But thankfully,
with the
more and more,
frogs.
well, thankfully, more and more people are speaking out against it. They're highlighting the problem. Hopefully, solutions can be found. And if enough people band together, we can all collectively, I know liberty-minded people don't like that phrase, but collectively, we can all be the change we want to see. You see, Price
Yeah, of
now
course.
is writing down, this guy is very dangerous. We got to get rid of him. Goldie is being quiet, so he's probably relaying to his agents as well,
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff.
Yep, is waiting for you to get pinged from your IP address so that the Swiss secret police can show up at our doors. You know.
And I'll tell you the
That's what I
stupid
mean.
thing is that we have King Charles, right? And his
Yeah,
only
he's
comment,
part of it.
yeah, he's supportive of all the shit that's going on. What happens being a king who is meant to be patriotic for their own country?
He's even fighting the line of succession.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's like, what is this? The United Kingdom, right? 2 words, and apparently neither of them mean fuck all anymore.
There's no unity, and the kingdom doesn't have a basis of.
Yeah, there's
of
been a
legitimacy.
wedge driven into the heart of the United Kingdom to unite it, to destabilize it, to divide it.
It's going to turn
The
into
divided. What is it exactly? Is it
a
still a
divided
kingdom?
queerdom. It's a divided, culturally unified queerdom of doom.
The divided People's Republic of England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, Wales.
Always put last.
The People's Republic of, well, it's usually Northern Ireland, isn't it? But,
You're going to have like checkpoints placed all around different parts of the UK, so you can only enter if you kind of don't have a criminal record or something.
It's so strange. I mean, the greatest advantage our opponents have is that they weaponize weakness. And the greatest disadvantage for them, the greatest disadvantage is they become so weak that they cannot ensure their own existence. That's the paradoxical nature of our opposition, and it just goes to show their key assets are institutional power and organization. Those are the only 2 aces in our opposition's hole. It's not possible for us to have institutional power, folks, because you can't have 2 institutions at once. But it is possible for an organizational format, and thankfully, that has been able to happen in pop culture circles because our opposition underestimate just how potent pop culture is. You could literally have a pop culture government. It's never been tried, but you can have that. You know, a group of people just chasing the latest trends. It would be a crazy concept, folks, but it would probably be super lit. Could make all the great shows and make them just like they used to be in a great way.
But it's like people talking about older shows in the chat, like Only Fools and Horses and things like that. You look at Only Fools and Horses, I watched all of it for the first time in sequence, like as opposed to just random episodes when they were on in syndication when I was younger. I watched them all a couple of years ago. And I forgot there were things like, I'm going to the Packy shop. It's like, whoa. Oh, yeah. I remember. I used to talk like that when I was a kid. Like, oh, my God. How did I
Now it's a
forget
hate
that?
crime.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'm not in the UK, so it doesn't really apply to me. But there you go. Yeah. I mean, you've got a super class. You've got a class of it's okay. Let me put it this way. It's the antithesis of what I am experiencing living in Asia, right? Because when you are in Asia, especially the Philippines or countries like this, as a foreigner, by and large, like pound for pound, the foreigners have probably got more money, right? On average per capita than the natives. And yet you have almost no rights whatsoever here. You will integrate or you will be deported. And that's if you don't get, killed, because they don't like it when you criticize their culture, right? They'll tell you to get the hell out. And if you continue, well, you never know what might happen. Be careful. But of course, if you conduct yourself as a nice, integration-friendly person, you will make lots of friends and do very, very well here. Sorry, you were going to say something, mate?
Well, I'd just like to interject one moment, and that's the key to reviving not just our popular culture, but our cultures as a whole, building bonds of trust, respecting one another, having our own spheres of influence, because I think that is absolutely important to ensure that peoples and belief systems can have their bases of operation. And what we are seeing is our sphere of influence being invaded and infested by ravenous groups of people, both physically and ideologically. And all we want is for them to go back to their sphere of influence, go back into the void.
Or a little respect. A little respect would be nice.
Go ahead,
and
Dobby.
probably a few less people.
Yeah, I was going to say, like years ago, I predicted something like this was going to happen when Harrods was sold to the Al Fayed family because it was no longer a British institution. And that was when my parents were still around, but it was like, I predicted that something like this was inevitably going to happen, where one culture comes in, overwrites an entire nation, and it kind of, you can no longer be white. You have to be multiculturally accepted into everything. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
I have something.
Go on.
I want to say that I was visiting London many years ago, and it was around the time where the Al Fayeds did buy that. And I was on like a tour where there was like a fancy British person explaining to me things that were going on. And then we passed by Harrods, and he's like, and he really said this just out in the open. Probably today he would be canceled. He said, this is Harrods, or the way it's known now, Arabs.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I was introduced to the store, by the official guide.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that they would do. Yeah, they used to be okay to just laugh at these things, to laugh at yourself, to anything like that. It is. I mean,
I can only imagine that now that people would, that man would be fired. I can't imagine he would say that now and anybody would be cool with it.
No way. He would be fired and cancelled and possibly locked up. That's the way the UK is now, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
I can barely believe it because, of course, I've not set foot in the UK since 2019. So I cannot really recall anything that bad. But from what I hear and see and what you guys tell me is fucking terrifying now.
Well, Doctor Who is a great example of population replacement. This whole DEI initiative nonsense. It is a form of pop culture population replacement. And as someone who lives in a country that experienced one of the oldest phases of population replacement, from Wales and Welsh people being a majority to them being a minority in their own country. Yes, it took centuries, but it did happen. And I know it can be possible, and I know it's being done in the here and now. If it can happen to Wales, it can certainly happen to the rest of Europe. At the very least, England and Wales, English people and Welsh people had some sort of compatibility, but that doesn't seem to be happening in this
and the problem is, of course, that the UK population, the native British population, seem to be so resigned these days that they just let it happen. Like you can't fight back. They took your guns. You can't do anything because they've got more rights. You can't say anything anymore. How soon till you can't even think it? It's ridiculous. I mean, and the population, of course, is getting out of hand. Although it's only half what the population is here. And there are only about something like 80 or 90,000 foreign people in the Philippines, including me. And out of a population of 115 million, which is absurd, But I was trying to explain to someone the other day, because, like I said, you might have more money here, but you've got no rights. Whereas in the UK, there are thousands, that millions of foreigners who have no money and more rights.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand. I was like, well, imagine if 1 in 5 people was a foreigner. They'd be like, oh, that'll never happen here. They will never let that happen. I'm like, well, no, because at the moment we're doing it to get away from it happening in our countries.
He's right in the sense that it will never happen like that. But nothing ever really happens like that. It's gradualism. That's why I encourage That's why I encourage content creators to grow gradually, because there are a lot of dangers to growing just like that. If you can grow just like that, then you can easily just like that. Go ahead, Price.
No, first of all, I agree with everything you said, and even with that, what you said about growing, and I'll give you an example. When you have a viral kind of silly video, and let's say a bunch of people subscribe to you, they don't know what they're subscribing to. They don't know you. They don't know what you're about. So once they subscribe, the next video you do that may not be a quirky viral video of that same nature. Yeah, they'll just unsub, or there'll be kind of subs that are sub, but they don't do anything or they don't care about what you're doing. But regarding the other angle of what you were saying, I think even English football really started showing that there was a change in mentality. It used to be, I remember growing up, I'd like to watch the Premier League because it was called something else before that. Was it always called the Premier League?
First Division. That's what
yes,
right. In the 90s, the Premiership was added, basically.
Right, exactly. So I guess I'm dating myself, but I was even before the Premier League. I was watching it, and it was always very special that there were a lot of people from England on these teams, a lot of home players that grew up within that same club, and they were really part of that identity and the stories, behind the kind of games you were watching. And there was a lot more heart and kind of something more personal to it. But as they became more international and global, I see less and less. I'm not saying there isn't quality English footballers, but I just feel like the whole league as a whole is not the same as it was. I would have preferred there would be less fancy players from all over the place and more of that character and personality that I saw growing up. But now it's kind of gone.
And then, of course, the English players that are there don't look very English anymore, just like the cast of Doctor Who. And I'm not saying that again, they like to champion that as the strength of the country. Like, you look at
the English football team in 2006. They had one of the strongest squads in Europe, but they didn't have the chemistry because they didn't really play together. They did play each other in the Premier League, but as a team, they didn't have that chemistry. So you can have a great team with lots of great players. They don't have that chemistry. It just doesn't work. And that was really the UK in 2006. It had a very strong economy. It had a solid society. Things were growing. Things were developing. But it was gradually seeping in as more and more incompatible people, even then, were part of the society. There wasn't really that chemistry. And then it started to gradually go downhill. So you see a lot of parallels between the political realm and the pop culture realm, and even the realm of sports as well, which is why it's very essential to link them all together and to merge them all together. It's very difficult to do that, though, because some people we don't really want to talk about it, but it wants to talk about you, so you don't really have a choice.
Final comment. Even the Manchester United treble had a lot of people from England the surrounding, whether it's
Celtic nations,
Great Britain. It had a very British feeling to it. If you look at Manchester United today, I don't think that it has that same feeling anymore.
No.
Yeah. I made the joke here when I was at university that the sheer amount of Muslim students that were there, I was constantly making jokes like, it's not a university, it's a transfer hub, because they're all waiting to be transferred somewhere. And it goes to show, like, even here in America, our culture is slowly being replaced. So to be American, you can't really be American. It's got to be the new kind of international, no whites allowed because we have to be inclusive nation. It's
The dumb thing is there was room for everybody. I don't think that there was ever an issue, and not only was there room for everybody, I feel like society was gradually heading in a direction of inclusivity to begin with, but somebody didn't seem happy with the natural progress. And back to what you were saying, Ryan, when you were saying about the YouTube and the sub, if you do progress in one day, it usually doesn't work. Not that I don't know if that's a good thing that I just said or not, but progress has to happen in a way that everybody understands it, and it happens in a way that everybody is on board for. And there is a way. I do think we were heading in a good direction prior to all the divisiveness.
Yeah, I mean, we say this quite regularly, actually, on our various shows on this channel, that we all remember being around in the 2000s when you could have shows on TV like drawn together that were, you know, pretty drastically offensive in terms of the humor they did. They tried everything to like upstage South Park, but at the same time, you also had shows that were on TV that were kind of beginning this process, like Queer Eye and stuff like that. And nobody cared. It was like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. I mean, let the gays have a bit of TV. That's all right. There's plenty of them. They probably deserve a bit of entertainment as well. Nobody cared. Now the problem is the whole system has turned around so that it can only be that. It's gone so far the other way now, just like everything else.
And it's become counterproductive. Yeah. It's counterproductive. That's what you're saying.
No, the gays hate it. They hate being represented. The friends I have who are gay are so fucking sick of it. Same as the friends I have who are black. Same friends I have who are any denomination that gets called marginalized. They despise it. Because it's not actually, it implies that they're fucking useless and need everything handed to them. And nobody with a bit of pride wants that.
Right? Oh, absolutely. And that's what happens when you weaponize weakness and use people as like a human shield. But I'd like to get Goldie's perspective on this whole situation. He usually gets quiet in regards to these statements. What do you make of our declining popular culture, Goldie? As a British person yourself.
Well, I don't like to get into all these discussions about, you know, politics. I'm here to talk about Doctor Who and, you know, the pop culture surrounding that, not the wider implications. So I'll just comment on this story that we've pulled up and that we started about 40 minutes ago. So as regards to this woman, I have never seen her in anything before. I've never watched any of these shows listed here, so I can't comment on her acting ability. I mean, I've no, as we've discussed, we have no clue what kind of villain she's playing. I mean, for people who are, you know, fussed about her being in the show, I would just say that this is Doctor Who. Like, chances are she's going to be, you know, covered in all like blue or green prosthetics and makeup and stuff. So you're probably not going to even see her. So, but I have no problem with her being exactly in the show. But I mean, you know, you could make a fair comment as to the wider cast and how they're raising certain people. And that's definitely a conversation to be had. But in regards to just her, I see it as a nothing burger for now until we have more information. But yeah, that's all I really have to say on it.
You know, I'm sick of having just women all the time. I mean, I like women. Don't get me wrong. I like women. Okay. But how is it that this show no longer has, whether it's a villain or a good guy or a bad guy, there's no straight men. And
there's no masculinity.
There's no When's it going to be our turn, guys?
Never.
Well, a gay doctor, a female assistant, her two mums and grandma. What else? Kate is the head of unit, but I guess that's grandfathered in because she's been around for a while.
They don't want to have one positive male character that actually has any kind of presence here. And this is the part where I feel like it's mean-spirited. It's not. They keep talking about inclusivity, but that doesn't look like inclusivity to me. That looks like sort of vengeance.
Exclusivity?
Yeah, but it even has a more sinister thing.
Spite.
There's so many bitter people sitting around with this kind of vengeance. You know, you could claim in the past that maybe growing up you could say, well, they could have been more inclusive on TV shows or things like that. Well, two things I have to say about that. One, we weren't the one producing the shows. So if maybe they could have been a bit more inclusive, it wasn't on us. So if anybody, they did the thing that they don't like, not us as viewers. And the other thing is that even when you did see different groups of people, you didn't have people actively hating on them. You didn't have this kind of sinister agenda against anybody. You could say that you could have featured them more, but there wasn't a sinister agenda against them, if I'm making any sense.
No, you're absolutely
But
right.
what
This is
I'll
why I
say
get
is-
angry about the systemic racism claims, because it doesn't exist. Sorry, go on.
Well, what I will say is the one sort of disadvantage that all these people have, brought about with all this changes of what's acceptable and things like that is that you can't really have effective villains anymore because, there's this, growing movement of we need to be extremely anti abuse towards women, and inherently that is a good thing because you shouldn't be promoting that sort of thing, but in an attempt to overcompensate for all that abuse and things like that, you can't have villains which are malicious and are doing bad things and saying offensively bad things because they see it as promoting that. So you can't have a villain which does go out there and crosses the boundary because it's not about, oh, this person's a villain, it's we've got that shown on the screen. So that's the kind of downside to what they've done, is that you can't do any good villains anymore because every time you watch a movie or a show, what's the first thing that happens? It's no one talks about the actual content of the show. It's right, what does this mean? What's it telling people? And if they see in any way, even if it is a villain doing a bad thing, they'll take the message of, oh, well, the show's saying that we should do this and that's wrong, even though they don't view it within the context of this is a villain, this is shown to be wrong. Even though it is being shown, it's done with that intention of saying that this is a villainous act, but they don't consider that anymore.
They don't. Go on, Rev.
Men have become kind of useless in entertainment, and it's something that's been going for years now. The idea of replacing
Western
men.
civilization doesn't need men in order to survive because the state, the government, the institutions fill in the roles of manhood, and that's why you see that. Yes, supposedly, and that's why you see this parallel between our pop culture collapsing and our societies collapsing.
They want men to be inert, impotent, unambitious, lazy, directionless, confused, weak-willed, callow fucking pigs.
What was the core of Top Gear at its peak? Ambitious but rubbish. That literally is
guys mucking about with cars. I mean, it's fun, isn't it? It's what we do when there's no wars to fight.
Just don't give me one with a manual, because I'm like, fucking clutch.
If war gets declared, they'll be bloody soon back to men. Like, you guys, could you do something about this? We'll be like, oh, now you're interested in us, are you?
It's like in the entire entertainment industry, men are just meant to be subservient. They're meant to be seen, not heard, and sometimes not even seen. And this is what kills your franchises. You replace people who actually got talent with just idiots who are just simps for a dying way of life.
Well, that's why, Dobby, I think it's so important from a content creator's perspective for there to be people opposed to this, whether they're moderates who want to reform it or more extreme elements that want to burn it to the ground tonight. Nickelback. I recently discovered that band. It's very good. And you've got those
you do know Nickelback is widely considered to be the worst sellout rock band of all.
Oh well.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like plenty of their songs. Just understand that when you do that, you may not know you're actually making it worse for yourself.
But in all seriousness, having moderates and more radical content creators highlighting the problems with popular culture and arguing amongst each other what solutions are the best, and then going our own way with said solutions. That's the way to go. The danger is if the moderates sell out to the establishment, because ain't no fucking radicals going over to the other side. It's going to be the moderate centrist types that could defect. So we're keeping an eye on you bastards. I certainly am. Every one of you. You were saying, Price?
I was saying that I don't listen to Nickelback a lot, but I think maybe they get too much hate. It's like
they do, yeah.
They're probably not the best band ever, and they're kind of vanilla and kind of very mainstream and safe. But at the same time, if you forced me now to listen to them or to Taylor Swift, I'm taking Nickelback.
Oh, 100%.
Nickelback any day of the put on Nickelback now. You know what I mean? Like in order for me not to hear Taylor Swift.
I had an ex-girlfriend who took me because she had an extra ticket with a friend of hers to see Nickelback live, and actually they were very good. So
they're probably a professional band. It's not that they don't know how to play music. They're professionals.
They're a bit generic now.
Yeah,
just kind of made the same album like 5 times in a row.
You know, like reality-based music, just release the same thing over and over again, and people still watch.
Kind of like U2 since the year 2000.
Oh yes, yeah.
They recorded the same song over and over again for the past, I think, 24 years.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the problem. There's not even any balls left in rock music. What the?
I mean,
anyway, there you go. Go on, mate. Go on. You finish off.
I'm saying you can't really expect from these kind of old. I don't want to say geezers. I'm a geezer, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like these kind of older bands, they don't have something fresh and new really to introduce. You expect this new generation of bands to bring it, but when the kind of culture that you both have been talking about, and how even you don't even see men in kind of good rock and roll. They've managed to marginalize even rock and roll, make that like sidelined. You just see a bunch of sensitive, either like a Harry Styles or an Ed Sheeran. Back in the day when I was growing up, that would be like some little girl would be listening to that. Like real people, real men sitting with beers would not be carrying what Ed Sheeran sings. You know, maybe one love song or whatever, but you'd be looking for these kind of bands like Oasis, like Blur, like those kind of things. You're not looking for that shit.
You want to talk about music? I mean, once again, I'll have to bring up the Philippines because it is awful here. Like it's tragic. Like if it ain't the Beatles, then or Wonderwall being the only Oasis song that they know. Basically, men don't listen to rock music here. They listen to ballads. They listen to Ed Sheeran, and I'm not talking about like Shape of You or Don't or any
like
of that stuff. I'm talking about like the songs he writes that sound like they were written by like Marvin Gaye or like the Righteous Brothers and things like that. That's the kind of shit that they listen to here. That's what men listen to. Like
I'd rather listen to Marvin Gaye than to Ed Sheeran, to be honest with you.
Anyone who wouldn't is not a musically minded person. Like absolutely.
You could make a film out of it.
Spectacular voice, Marvin Gaye.
You could make a film out of it. The Queers Against the Tramps. Because Ed Sheeran did start out as a tramp.
Yep. Well, there you go. Ed Sheeran is one of those people who actually doesn't have any real talent. He just got taught. He just made sure to get a proper education to the point where he had vocal training and everything. He was just determined to make money in music.
It's not necessarily. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
We're going well off topic, but I don't care. We'll wrap it up soon and we'll get into ranking.
I'm saying it's not necessarily that he has no talent as much as he doesn't have a lot of character and personality. Meaning, like you said, he went to the right places. They gave him the right lessons. He can sit with a guitar. He can play it. He can sing. He'll hit the right notes. But if you look for something behind the eyes to see some kind of like character and soul, some kind of charisma or charm, he doesn't really have it.
No, he doesn't. He's basically a human jukebox.
Yes.
That's it. Anyway. There you go. Welcome to the Fall of Man, which was just supposed to be about an Indian actress, but fuck it. We just put the world to rights, and I like it. We have a job to do, however, and that would be ranking Series 8 of Doctor Who.
Let's do it.
Now, Series 8, of course, the first Peter Capaldi series. We've finally made it. The more we've talked about the modern run, the more I've become convinced that Peter Capaldi is my favorite Doctor. I'm pretty sure his performance was fucking fantastic in almost everything he did. Even the episodes that I don't think were written for him were probably more written for Matt Smith and just carried over. He's fantastic, like Robin Hood, like the Robot of Sherwood. I think he's fantastic. However, there are some issues. And I actually was able to watch some of this series this time to make sure that I knew what I'm bloody talking about in this episode, because it has been a while. I remember when he was first cast, Moffat gave a quite famous interview where he referred to the 12th Doctor as a snarling beast. And I'm pretty sure it was along those lines anyway. And I thought it was really interesting the way that the Doctor was kind of supposed to go back a step to being kind of a curmudgeon, a bit of a bastard, a bit heartless, a little bit callous, in every way the opposite of Matt Smith.
He was more like a Hartnell, maybe a bit younger than Hartnell, but he was more of one of the old school doctors, I think.
Exactly. It was an attempt to go back to that in some way.
And especially with, like, the outfit that they had him wear, it was a throwback to John Pertwee. Yeah, it was like the John Pertwee cross.
Velvet.
Yeah, and it worked because people were like, wow, he's actually the Doctor. Even though everybody loved Matt Smith, they looked at Capaldi and they're like, okay, this can work. You've got a bitter, older version. He's been through absolute hell. You have all of the kind of emotions with David Tennant's era and then with Matt Smith. And now we had the seasoned Doctor, the final one. And now he's going to be an older guy. But it did kind of work.
So, yeah, but I think anybody can tell that they changed the character by series 9 quite dramatically.
They wanted to make him more like more youthful acting, I think.
Kind of like an aging rock star rather than like a genius alien scientist who's hundreds of years old.
Played into the fact that he does actually play music, and then they had him with a guitar suddenly come out, and so I'm remembering correctly, he's like in a t-shirt suddenly with a guitar or something.
Yeah, he's still wearing his jacket, but he's wearing like hoodies with it and stuff.
Right, and then like has a guitar on him. I remember he's the cool rocker.
He's got Roy Orbison sunglasses, but that, of course, is all series 9. In this series, he had his hair shorter. He was very much what Moffat had tried to make him. I think it worked very well. I couldn't remember series 8 very well, but I've been watching it just to make sure that I know what I'm saying and that I really believe it. And I love Peter Capaldi in this series, having watched it probably only for the third time.
This may be the last truly good series. I think that the series after that, I think it started falling apart, even though I like Capaldi.
This is the thing. So you've got a few things that started to creep in this series.
Woke-mindedness,
diversity and stuff is getting ramped up a little bit. There's also an attempt to change Clara, because until this point, Clara's been a little bit overpowered, like the girl who's the key to everything. But hey, I mean, someone was going to be that character. That's the story he wanted to write. Fair enough. She's in and out of his timeline leading up to the day of the Doctor and all of that stuff. But then there's like sort of nothing to do with her anymore. Now that plot has ended and Matt Smith has regenerated. So they spend the first couple episodes of the series, first half of this series, with Clara really questioning whether she wants to continue with the Doctor. At first, she's completely shell-shocked by the fact that he's aged. And that is quite interesting because they drew much more attention to that than I thought they would. And there's even a scene in the first episode where what's her name? The lesbian fucking Silurian chick, Madam Vastra. She's like talking down to Clara, and then Clara stands up to her and says, like, just because you fancy me doesn't mean that you should underestimate me, or something along those lines. And I thought that was actually kind of interesting but then of course it's really just about the fact that they're lesbians, and and so you've got a lesbian interspecies couple, and one of them is a little jealous because the other one fancies Clara.
Hey, at the very least, the Potato Man threw that newspaper at that fucking bitch Clara and knocked her clean out, okay?
Sure did. But anyway, Clara changes dramatically in this. Like she starts off, she hasn't gone full girl boss yet, but the Danny Pink storyline happens. So she gets a boyfriend, and she goes from being this woman who's seen everything that the Doctor has seen, and yet also she's someone who goes batshit insane after she suddenly decides that she's fallen in love with this guy who she's been on like a few dates with. She leaves the Doctor mid-season and then carries on seeing him in secret behind Pink's back, and then when Pink gets killed, it's like, big deal that she never came clean to him.
Wow, a woman being a woman. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. But I do think throughout Capaldi's run, it is a great example of inconsistency, because you have many great episodes throughout this run. I dare say most of them, not all, but most of them are in 8. There was a gradual decline because of the inconsistency factor.
Yeah.
Each series of Capaldi's run was like a new Doctor to me. And he literally did change over time and grow and look different across, each year. And he did.
So how do you feel about that?
I thought it was a good idea, but you can only do that.
I gotta say, I didn't hate it either. I thought he nailed every iteration that they gave him.
But you need to do that over a much longer period of time, like a Tom Baker-esque run, and Capaldi was not given that amount of time, especially that year off. That year off in 2016 should never happen. They should have had a series then.
Yeah, it was quite strange that they did that. It really stalled the momentum. But yeah, so I mean, I just sort of thought it would be nice because we've only got 12 episodes to rank. So we don't have quite as much work cut out for us as we had last week.
Well, what does Goldie think?
Yeah, what does everybody think of A, the Doctor, B, Clara, and C, Danny Pink?
Let's start off with Goldie.
4 week episodes.
Well, Clara's one that I know she's hated, but for me, I don't really like her or hate her. She just kind of, even though she was with the Doctor for a long period of time, I just kind of looked past her because I don't know. I guess she just seems like a caricature of a companion more so than an actual companion. So I just kind of brush over her. She seems more like a plot point than a character, really. So I don't really think about her that much. What I will say is that Victorian Clara in The Snowmen would have been a far superior version of
Countess
Clara. But,
whatever she's not.
But even season 8 Clara is so different to season 7 Clara. She changes as well. But as for Capaldi, I think he is drastically different in each of his seasons. I will say though, like season 8 it had him like being, a brooding, dark mess, whereas like season 9 was kind of like he was drunk all the time. But season 10, I think, found a balance of those two.
He discovered whiskey. That's what happened. Sorry, go on, man.
Whereas season 10, you have the whole he's a professor, so he has that side from season 8, but then he has that fun side when they're going on adventures. That's the season 9 bit. But Capaldi is my second favorite Doctor because I think, and I've always preferred Moffat's Doctors because they do feel more alien and more, I always feel like the Doctors should be, and I know, well, technically, I suppose if you're talking in terms of actual conception of the character, this came before, but I've always imagined the Doctor as being, and what the Doctor should be, is kind of like a professor meets Willy Wonka type of character. Like they're showing the
classic
humans.
Whovians will say no to that, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. That's how I kind of envision the Doctor. The Doctor should be a bit like a Willy Wonka professor wizard type character. I think that Moffat understood that, and so Capaldi is my second favorite Doctor, only second to Matt Smith. But I think, like Ryan said, if Peter Capaldi had a much longer run and much more consistent run, I think he could have been my favorite. But in terms of acting, he's probably one of the best, if not the best. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts on his Doctor.
He could still be the Doctor today. It's like that long a run, folks, where you see a man nearing
he wanted to.
at
We've
the
said it
peak
a
of
million
his
times.
life, nearing the end of it. That kind of story for the Doctor, I think, would have been fantastic over an 8 to 10 year run.
We should have had 10 years of Capaldi. Absolutely.
I have an unpopular opinion that I would have preferred if Capaldi was there before Matt Smith. When Matt Smith always felt on the young side to me, whereas Capaldi, I feel like they brought him in a few years after they should have, if that makes,
maybe.
Well, I do agree with that to some extent, because even though even though I love Matt Smith's Doctor, and over the years my love for David Tennant's Doctor, and this is not because of David Tennant, because I separate the actor from the character they play, but David Tennant's Doctor and all the arrogance sometimes, it makes me not really like that Doctor as much. Whereas I can kind of see why you think maybe Capaldi should have come before Matt Smith, because even though there are vast differences between Tennant and Smith's Doctors, they do still have that kind of they're both young men, you have a lot of women always after them. So to differentiate between them, maybe to have Capaldi, who was significantly different from Tennant, and then you could have gone back to the younger Doctor. It may have streamlined the line of Doctors. Yeah.
So what about Danny Pink, guys? Did it work for you or not?
Completely broke immersion. A black man's last name is never going to be Pink. Okay.
It was an interesting character. It didn't work for me the first time. It worked significantly more when I watched it later.
Upon my rewatches, I've found the character of Danny Pink to be very symbolic, and we'll get into that in episodes, especially like the Caretaker. But I think the actor is dog shit. I don't think he's good at acting, but the character, I think is a very good character. And again, I'll get into this more when we go into episodes like the Caretaker and Dark Water. I can see what Moffat was going for with that character. So I'll just say that.
Wasn't the Caretaker that episode where the Doctor was taking on a robotic version of Garrus Vakarian?
Yes.
That thing looked just like Garrus.
Yeah,
Shavot's Blitzer.
The Blitzer, that's it. Yeah, that thing was actually no, it wasn't too bad. I saw a bit of that episode earlier on. I forgot about the giant flip that Danny Pink does. What else about Pink though? Does anyone else have an opinion? Does anybody like him really loads or anything? Because I felt a lot more for him after what happened in the finale. I thought was done pretty damn well actually, but that's me.
I mean, it was kind of like, I see where they were going with it, but it almost was becoming the Danny Pink show. I mean, it was
a little bit too much about him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I liked the dynamic of there being a boyfriend character who doesn't see eye to eye with the Doctor, but that's mostly from the Doctor.
So he was like a reverse Mickey.
Yeah,
he is like a Mickey that's much less compliant.
Oh, the parallels, because Mickey turned into like a Cyberman hunter in the parallel universe, and then Danny Pink
turns into a Cyberman.
It's what happens.
But he actually but Pink probably killed more Cybermen. Pink
Mm.
probably killed more Cybermen than Mickey ever would. I don't know. Okay, last thing before we get into the actual episodes, Missy. What do you think? Discuss. I mean, okay. People, obviously, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. This was the tease. Can we get away with changing the gender of the Doctor by doing it first with the Master? But having said it, I love her performance. Michelle Gomez is fantastic.
She is a good actress, and she does do it well. But knowing what they were planning and what they were doing, I would have unfortunately sacrificed her performance in order for us not to get what we got later.
Yeah, I would have preferred it if she were any other time lady.
You could just make her an original character. Just make her some evil time lady that does evil
Missy,
things.
Who cosplays.
She could easily have been. Could easily have been somebody else. Anybody else. Could have been a new character.
Yeah, like the Master's wife, Missy.
There's
he
a
just
part that I
fucks
think,
off and keeps her on Earth.
Isn't there a part that she kisses the Capaldi or something? There's something, that's where really, if we had Spidey senses, they should have been working then.
Yeah, I watched it earlier on. I watched the entirety of Dark Water earlier on. And I actually, again, I really enjoyed it. But I did sort of go, Christ, she's making out with him, and the whole thing's being played for laughs, and she's bonkers. And is this what we're supposed to think then, that now that she's a woman, she's just automatically in love with the Doctor in her weird sort of deranged, toxic way?
The first of many collaborations between the Master and the Cybermen.
Yeah.
As well.
But they've always had this kind of
again 2 seasons later.
There's always been this kind of weird relationship between the Doctor and the Master anyway. We have this idea that the Master, he comes over as, I want to kill the Doctor at all costs, but he doesn't really want to kill him. But he does want to kill him. But
they don't tongue each other. You never saw Pertwee and the Master's character, whose name escapes me, tonguing each other, because they would have both been arrested.
And then, like, the thing with Missy is she went back to the Delgado type approach, right? Very kind of dark, brooding kind of outfits. And you had this idea that, okay, if they're really going to go with Missy as the Master, then you shouldn't have a romance between both of them.
No, it was weird, and that's why I think like Danny Pink was sort of crowbarred in so that there would be a love story in this series, because there had been a love story in almost every series in some way, or a significant absence of a love story in some, like series 3 and things like that. So it was very strange that they were doing that, but oh well. And then Missy,
I had no problem with Missy when I first watched these episodes, because again, I had no clue. Like if you said the word woke to me, I would have been like, what's that? Like I had no knowledge of politics or anything going on in the world, so I had no problem with Missy. I mean, the way that I'm going to explain it in my alternate stories is that the Master used that chameleon arc or chameleon arch so to explain that he didn't actually regenerate into a woman, he kind of, he put his essence into another body type of thing, because that's the way you could explain it away.
Co-op bodies, yeah, he will do that.
But yeah, there are issues with her and the Doctor making out and things like that. That's obviously, as you say, a tease of what was to come.
And then
there's a line in it where just after they've made out, the Doctor's standing there looking appalled and kind of aghast, with his mouth wide open in shock, which is very funny actually. Capaldi's a funny guy, but then like this is when she is trying to convince them that she is a droid that works at the W3 base in the afterlife, and that she's just, it's all bollocks. She's just messing with him. And he says, oh, you're so realistic. Clara turns to him and goes, tongues? And he goes, shut up. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's supposed to be funny, but still kind of like inappropriate, And
it was all done just to give the Doctor an army.
Having said that, I really like the story. I think it was pretty good.
You're so lucky Burundra isn't here. He'd be chewing you out right now.
Yeah, I'm sure, but hey, that's fine.
Bonjour went au revoir. Now on to the tier list, Phil.
Yeah, let's get on with this. Let's do this and actually get into these episodes then, because there are 12, and I think we all know the ones that most people are going to say are crap, but the ones I can't remember at all I can't remember a lot of Flatline, although I think I liked it when I first saw it, and I can barely remember anything about Forest of the Night.
Forest of the Night.
That's good. That's good. You should feel lucky.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case.
It makes no sense.
Everybody immediately, as soon as you
tigers escape from the zoo, and then the world gets here. What happened to them? Are they chewing people in the underground?
That one, yeah.
I forgot Time Heist was.
Yeah, there's that little girl. There's that little girl who's secretly like this fairy thing, and then her lost sister comes out of a bush at the end.
Another one of them.
Let's put Kill the Moon on the bottom.
Yeah. I think everyone will probably agree that Kill the Moon is.
What do you think about this? Because we always talk about Moffat and how he isn't really woke and he's actually against all this mess. I don't know if he wrote Kill the Moon, but people have cited that episode as being a story which has an anti-abortion allegory. So what do you think about that?
I had the idea of literally kill the moon, to keep.
I mean,
the egg.
what's the premise of it is that the moon is like increasing in gravity, which is fucking with the tides on Earth, right? But then, of course, it turns out to have been an egg for some giant Bahamut creature.
Yeah.
That ultimately ends up having, but then the problem resolves itself anyway, right? The moon bursts, it's hatched, it flies away and lays another moon.
Yeah. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
All those people on the suicide shuttle with the nukes. What was it? It's difficult to explain.
Well, the original
it takes place
plan
in 2049 on a space shuttle.
The original plan was to literally kill the moon to make sure it stayed as an egg. That was the plan, and that was the like Sophie's choice that the doctor gave to Clara, and she was all outraged. How could you make me choose?
Yeah,
that's that scene at the episode, isn't there? Where like I remember watching that for the first time, and Capaldi's doctor's kind of like, "Oh, ha 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 ha. Oh, you know, you're mad at me, but you'll be fine in a minute." And then she just starts full on shouting at him. I was like, "Oh shit, it's getting real." Like I wasn't expecting this.
She leaves. She actually leaves. She quits. At the end of that episode,
woman moans.
She's right back, of course.
Now
the
another
next
adventure.
Episode.
I think
this episode was written by someone called Peter Harness.
I think,
it's widely considered the worst.
I think
Go on, Rev.
Like a test run of what the BBC wanted to do as far as pushing narratives. This idea of how far can we push it? Like, how far can we go with an episode? Okay, we'll have an alien egg, but how far can we push it? And I think people that watched the episode, they did get very angry with it, because it's like, we don't need to have this kind of rhetoric on television, right?
What kind of rhetoric? What was the narrative behind this?
I mean, they were going to kill the creature to preserve the moon for the convenience of everybody on Earth.
We know
that it's a little bit of an abortion allegory.
Well, we know that the establishment is absolutely pro-abortion. So if they wanted to really push a narrative, they would have literally killed the fucking moon, not allowed the creature to birth, and then lay another fucking moon.
Yeah, it would have been played out like a Pompeii kind of scenario, where it's like the needs of one versus the needs of many, or something. You know?
It's like Armageddon plus abortion.
Can we consider putting in the Forest of the Night below Kill the Moon? Because although Kill the Moon isn't the greatest episode, I mean, I don't hate it, but in the Forest of the Night isn't like a good narrative in and of itself. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's so mishmashed together. Whereas Kill the Moon, like, there is a start, middle, and an end, and it does make sense what happens within the context of the story. Whereas in the Forest of the Night doesn't have that. And in the Forest of the Night has about 13 terrible child actors.
Yeah, I mean, this series has too many kids in it.
Yeah, that's the episode where London and maybe the whole world turned into a gigantic forest. I found that episode strange.
I can't remember it. I'm looking at it right now on Wikipedia, trying to rack my brain. Does anyone have anything they can tell me?
Essentially, what it is Clara and Danny are on like a school trip with these bunch of kids, which, first of all, doesn't even make any sense because they work at a secondary school, right? And these kids are about like 6 years old. So what the fuck is that? And one kid is like ADHD and he's always running off and banging his head on the wall. And they come across some tigers that chase them, and Capaldi's doctor has to do a bunch of magic with this little girl who's a fairy, and they have to, get all these trees out the way, and then the girl's sister comes out of a bush, and everything's all happy. It's so garbage.
That sounds like a start, middle, and end, Goldie, that you said this episode.
No, it's not. I've had to actively kind of go in there and fix it up and word it differently because no one will understand what I'm going on about if I just say how the episode went.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I don't remember this, and I think that. Sorry, Rev. Go on, mate.
You had this narrative where, okay, so we've got abortion, now we've got climate. And I think I would agree that this, I would say Forest is by far the worst, because it was like, how many more times do we have to hear about the climate? How many more times do we have to hear about kind of how the earth needs everything to survive? We know already, people are sick and tired of being told climate this, climate that. We know.
I will say this though, Rev. In the Forest of the Night is still better than Orphan 55.
Yeah, you're right.
Is this the one that Capaldi at the end lectures kids about the environment, or am I confusing this with another one?
It probably is that one then.
Sounds like it.
There's one that at the end, there's kind of a PSA that felt too much for Doctor Who. I don't know if I'm crazy if this is the one where at the end it almost looks. It doesn't feel like a natural part of the episode that he's lecturing the kids.
He's teaching children, little children, and I
It
think
says that the trees shielded the Earth from the solar flare. Apparently, the Doctor hacks into the global cellular network as one of the kids reads off a passage prepared by the other students to tell everyone on Earth to leave the trees alone. Is that what we're talking about?
All I know is that I remember I didn't rewatch this, but I remember back when I saw it, and there was the Doctor with the kids. If there were moments that things were cracking in a little Spidey sense, it felt a little. I don't know. I didn't love it for some reason.
It was
let's look at the legacy of this. This was 10 years ago, 2014. Really, one of the starting years of pop culture content creation. You know, going against the grain with the establishment. Of course, the original Gamergate started in 2014, and I think we're allowing our current day sensibilities to cloud us from the fact that whether we like it or not, Series 6 to Series 8 was probably peak New Who in terms of
about that
shows. And
that Five was great too. Was the last. This is actually the last series. This is the first series since 5 that wasn't broken up or fucked with in some way, scheduling wise.
And it also felt like it was a bit like, oh, we're going to crossbreed Jumanji with Doctor Who, so we're going to have tigers coming to life. We're going to have a big ass forest, and it was kind of like, just stick to what Doctor Who does best. Don't bring in other movie types of. Be
fantastical. Be a science fiction show that does things that are completely unexpected and batshit crazy. Well, I'm sorry to say, both Kill the Moon and In the Forest of the Night do that. I don't expect a forest to come out of fucking nowhere and for the moon to be an egg.
Well, as I think TGM Steve said in the chat, this episode would have been much better if it was on a different planet and it wasn't just current day London again. Like, imagine that. The Doctor and Clara go to this planet and, you know, once they arrive there, it looks a certain way and they go to sleep for the night. And when they wake up, it's entirely different. It looks different and all these trees come out of nowhere. That would have been amazing. But just another, we're back in London and, oh no, there's a bunch of trees. It just... It's too much of New Who just grounding itself. I think, you know, you can have like stories, Doctor Who stories set in the current day, and they did that all the time in classic, but it was more sort of spread out. It wasn't just always on Earth and in the current day. So maybe if they went to a different planet, that it would have been better.
And so maybe Kill the Moon or Forest of the Night, guys.
Maybe I'm looking at it through the lens of today, and maybe that's unfair. I think that initially when I saw it, I probably didn't think much about these things.
No,
but
I didn't either.
Knowing that they're there and what happened later, I can't completely ignore it, even though I still agree that this is probably, for me, maybe one of the last pretty good seasons of this show. I think that the one that came afterwards and the one after that were already declines.
Yeah, that was
which is sad because this was the first season of Doctor Who that I saw live. So, you know, I didn't get to experience the other live, which is pretty sad.
Well, the chat are saying Kill the Moon is worse.
It is.
So how many of us agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds like most of us. Okay. So Moon, then Forest, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
And then I would say next up would be Murder on the Orient Express one, because it was kind of like...
I mean, Mummy.
Really? I love that.
Piss off! That one's good!
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Let's ratio the cancer patient to LMFAO.
You dick. What's wrong with it, Rev?
I don't know. It was kind of just... out of the blue. It's like, let's just do a completely abstract idea, but we're not.
Well, it was hinted at before, wasn't it, in one of the Christmas episodes?
Well, for future reference, Dobby, if you want to defend your position, the last thing you should ever say is, I don't know.
I'm going to say, and this may be controversial, I think both Dark Water and Death in Heaven should go next. I'm not a big fan of those.
Robot of Sherwood. folks.
Yeah, that's just the other one that
That's-
people really get on and say is terrible. It's a Gattis episode, so I'm already biased, but I think this is my favorite Gattis episode. I actually don't hate this at all. I think it's
What?
really,
This one,
really
like-
camp and silly, and it definitely wasn't originally written for Peter Capaldi. It reeks of this was written for Matt Smith and never got used.
When you consider like the order of these episodes, you had Deep Breath, which we'll get into that, but Deep Breath and Into the Dark are two very dark episodes. Like they feel very moody, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying tonally they're very dark. They're much more reserved. And then to have Robot of Sherwood, which is kind of like, right, you've had those 2 episodes of darkness. Let's have a load of fun, and it's going to be a bit out there and everyone running around and saying stupid things, but it's to give you that breathing room.
There are distinct phases in this series. You've got the first 3 episodes are let's reassure everybody that this is Doctor Who, that we don't need a young man to be playing the Doctor, so we can just have adventures and maybe use some leftovers. Then you've got like Listen, which gets really deep and kind of into lore and all kinds of stuff like that, but also introduces Danny Pink. Time Heist, I just enjoy. It's a good old romp. Caretaker, then they start bringing Danny Pink into the story. Then we've got the Preachy 2. Then you've got this really fun one that I just really like. Flatline, meh. Sorry, the Preachy 2 are actually separate. Dark Water and Death in Heaven, it gets dark again, like very dark, which I like. But by then you're married to the Danny Pink storyline. So it's kind of refreshing to remember these first 3 episodes are just kind of free of all that shit. You know what I mean?
Was against the Boneless, if I
it was with 2D
mistake.
people or something.
Very interesting concept that I never would have thought of. The 2-dimensional people trying to take over the world by just eating people and things.
And the shrinking TARDIS.
It's another contemporary current day one though. There's a lot of them in this series actually.
And that's when you started to see the TARDIS being used kind of more in the show than it normally is, with the idea of shrinking the TARDIS all the way down. And she's like walking around with it. I thought that's a good way to do it.
At least it's not in London. It's in Bristol.
Worse.
Yeah, they turn 3D objects into 2D objects.
Including people.
This is the one where it creates the TARDIS has siege mode as well, right? Which like deadlocks it so you can't get in or out. Yeah, it's okay. It's by no means the best though. I would say go on, what we say? Robot of Sherwood then is
that's what I would it's a solid episode. The biggest problem with it is though, like most celebrity historicals, although Robin Hood is technically a mythical figure rather than a historical figure, it's a typical celebrity historical in the vein of previous ones, and some of them do very well, but most of them don't.
Is that the one where they're fighting robots or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's robots in
yes.
Sherwood,
And he fences him with a spoon or something.
yeah, which is a Matt Smith bit. Absolutely. That's
was-
like writing for Matt Smith.
And I was already with the idea of bringing Robin Hood back, right? Could have been a precursor to what Disney was going to plan because it is part of the Disney brand. The idea of
you get all the meets the tournament with the splitting the arrow with all the cliches.
It's all right.
The Sheriff
It's
of
okay.
Nottingham was a robot, and he wanted to turn his castle into a ship.
He's not a robot, is he? No, he's just a bloke who found a spaceship and then wanted to use all the gold to reconstruct the circuitry on it or something to make it work again so that he could take over the world.
But it didn't really work, and it blew up.
You have a scene where Clara manages to get all that information out of him by just being hot in a red dress and telling him that she had the same experience, and then she just laughs at him when he realizes she didn't know anything, and she used him to get knowledge of what the fuck his plans are, So once again, Clara's a bit superpowered in this, but using her sex appeal to get what she wants as well, which not many assistants actually do.
I don't think any of them have, really.
I didn't hate it. When I was, just full disclosure, I had such a crush on Clara with at first. So I'm biased as fuck in her favor. Even now, I still think she's super pretty.
Yeah, nobody clipped that. Oops.
Oh well, tough. Anyway, yeah, I guess we should probably put Robot of Sherwood. I think Flatline's better than it.
Flatline was a kind of Dr. Light episode. I mean, he was in it, but he wasn't in it. It was more of like...
I love Flatline.
It's good. I'd say that I like the others better, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Robot of Sherwood and then Flatline?
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I don't hate any of these, really. The two that I don't like are already there. So I actually like a lot more of the series than I remember liking, you know? Okay. So 4 down, 8 to go.
I'm
It's
trying
okay.
to
We're making some pretty good time, actually. We're doing okay.
What about the caretaker? Because that villain, that
It's a bit
Garrus-looking fucking robot. As soon as I
It's a
saw
guilty
it,
pleasure of mine.
I don't hate that villain. I think it's kind of cool.
Was that the one where he
It's an
kind of...
automaton.
Oh, you meet Bill? No, different one.
No, that's 2 series later. This is where the doctor pretends to be the caretaker of the school because he's hunting the blitzer.
Yeah.
The what's it called? The Scovox blitzer.
it's just every time I see it, they
Why is
actually
it there
made-
again?
I don't know, but the reason why I see that villain and I just think Garrus Vakarian from Mass Effect, even the news outlets at the time were like, "You stole this from fucking Mass Effect, Doctor Who." Damn,
It does look a lot like it.
Yeah, looks like a bloody Turian Reaper.
What I will say is, in this episode, I understand what Moffat was going for was Danny Pink. So there's a lot more nuance to the friction between him and the Doctor. Most people say, why is the Doctor, hateful, resentful towards Danny Pink? And I think it's pretty obvious. So he was a soldier, right? And when I've brought this up to people, they seem to, sort of counter argument with, nothing you're saying makes sense because the Doctor's worked with UNIT before. He has respect for the Brigadier. But I think what it comes down to is that Danny Pink is very close to Clara now. And the reason he hates him is, but it's more than that, is because he had the whole experience with the Time War, right? And he made himself into it. No, it's because he became a monster because of all the killing and all of the conflict and all that, right? And so he has that sort of self-hatred part of it, but he hates himself because he had to do those things and because he had to be a soldier and kill people and do things like that. So when he's seeing that Danny Pink is getting close to Clara, it's not so much as he hates Danny Pink, it's so much that he sees himself in Danny Pink because that's what he was. And so he's worried that Danny Pink's going to hurt Clara because if he was close to her when he was in the Time War state, he would have led her into danger and done things. So I think I understand what Moffat was going for. I think I've sort of cracked the nuance behind that relationship. And when you actually consider that and watch all the other stories, it kind of falls into place.
And also you have the whole theme of this older Doctor being, he's very caring, so it's almost like he's overpowering and over domineering.
Yeah, he acts like an asshole, but he actually has a very big heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind that character.
No, I didn't mind Danny Pink that much when I watched it again. At first, I didn't like him much. I was like, "Who's this guy? Why is he messing with the formula we have?" But it whatever. That's just an immature perspective that I had at the time.
No, and his death and everything that happens there at the end with the Cyberman, whatever it is, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Agreed, yeah. The argument for why the Doctor, the argument that I hear, and I hear it from our side quite a lot, is that the Doctor has suddenly and arbitrarily decided that he hates soldiers in this series, which I think is not necessarily the case, because there is the argument of nuance that Goldie brought up. They say it's because it's woke. It's because the BBC wants to tear down masculinity and military service having any kind of honor or nobility to it. What do you think? Do you think that's what they were really doing? Because I know that Moffat doesn't particularly like armies, and he certainly doesn't like the church. Which is
we
why
have
he
to
always writes.
remember, folks, that the Doctor turns his companions into weapons. That's one of the great lessons we learned about the Doctor in New Who, is that his greatest asset is in turning his companions into like human
Soldiers,
variants
basically,
of him.
yeah.
And that's what he does. And you could say he destroys everything he touches in order to save
again,
every
that comes
single
up. Even
corner of
Danny,
creation. Yeah.
even Danny Pink brings that up towards the end of Death in Heaven. But anyway, yeah, I guess ultimately, do we like the Caretaker, or do we think there are worse or better?
It's a fun watch. It's always an episode that I can just put on, and I have such a fun time with it.
It's okay. I thought it was a bit silly, but it's okay.
I don't think the Doctor doesn't like guns anyway, because he's not. I mean,
sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, it's like they keep on reinforcing that Capaldi's going back to the old school Doctor, where he doesn't like guns. He tries his best not to kill, type thing, and I just don't think it works. I really don't.
I always have to explain. I think when I did my first stream with Leon, and he brought me on to talk about Doctor Who, I kind of had to explain to him, because he hadn't seen Doctor Who, that when the Doctor is very much showing this anti-gun side, this very anti-weapon side, it's not because of the whole, well, this is a ploy to get rid of the Second Amendment. Like, that's not really what it is. It's the Doctor is not anti-gun because he just he hates guns. It's because he hates what they stand for. It's any sort of violence, and he thinks that words and having conversations can triumph.
Yeah, he thinks that there are elegant ways to solve problems.
Yeah, but there isn't this sort of, right, we're going to hammer home the anti-gun sentiment, because whenever he is on Earth and he gets involved with UNIT, if he needs to send in the UNIT soldiers, if that's what's necessary, then he does so, and he appreciates their efforts. And there have been plenty of times where the Doctor has to pick up a gun himself, because the worst. The alternative to that is much worse. So he understands the need for them in certain scenarios.
He just doesn't want to use them. He wants to solve things with as little death and violence as possible, because he's seen so much of it. He's steeped in it. Yeah, that makes sense, especially in modern Who after Time War and stuff.
Yeah, like I don't think having
Obi-Wan Kenobi hates guns more than the Doctor.
Yeah, I wouldn't say having a few anti-gun messages or, anti-war messages are necessarily anti-military or things like that, because I know people who have, been in the military and they suffer from PTSD from seeing all this awful stuff, and they're very much against weapons. And, but it's not because they hate the need to stand up, because they've done that, they've done their service, but they've seen so much destruction that they don't want that to happen ever again. And so to have this view that those messages are just inherently anti-military and anti-honor and anti-British, it's kind of a it's kind of like an ignorant approach to the whole debacle.
Yeah, agreed. How do we get onto this? I can't remember.
We were talking about the Caretaker and Danny Pink.
Yeah, finish the line.
I guess we'll put it in there because I'm looking at the list and I actually like all the others more. So, does anyone disagree? No,
I just don't like the finale. I just don't like those two episodes.
So now it's getting a little tricky because I don't know. I love Mummy on the Orient Express. I really love it. Like I would call that one of the better ones.
Yeah, it felt like a more traditional Doctor Who, like a Pertwee story, or just a kind of a classic murder mystery. There isn't sort of
but with a very urgent time limit.
Yeah. It's actually it's a countdown or a time limit done right. It's not like an arbitrary countdown. It's something that's embedded into the actual villain, and it makes sense for the story. It's not just a random
seconds.
Yeah, it's not a random, like, all this character tripped over and pressed a red button and now we all have to escape. It's much more than that.
Yeah, it's not a Chris Chibnall countdown.
It's time for us to take a deep breath, folks, because starting episodes for seasons are usually middle of the road. It's a solid episode, folks. but it's like all
Ryan, you're breaking my
starting
heart
episodes.
because I
So
wanted this to
I,
be number one because this
Yeah,
is
it's
my
definitely not
favorite of
number
the.
one.
Well,
It's definitely not number one. It has a really cool ending, and a lot of fucking around, wasting time with the Doctor getting incapacitated, falling unconscious. Clara arguing with Vastra, who she claims has taken a fancy to her and stuff like that. It's a silly idea that's done well, but it's not the best.
Where are you all getting this notion that Vastra has a thing for Clara?
She's a lesbian lizard.
She says it. She literally says it.
What's the line?
She says something like, "I'm sorry if my pretty face has drawn your eye, but I'm not to be underestimated," or something like that. I forget the end.
That's
of the line.
that's not
And
that's
then
not a
Jenny
romantic
starts-
thing. It goes into
and
the
then Jenny starts
conversation.
cheering and clapping. Why would she mention to a lesbian lizard that she has a pretty face?
No, because you're forgetting the conversation afterwards. They have a
There's
conversation
even
about the
a bit
Doctor
where,
regenerate.
yes, I know that. I know it's the whole thing with the veil, but there's even a bit where like they both have a different reaction, and Jenny slaps Vastra and says, "Hey, married."
Deep breath is a solid start. It's what every good Doctor Who series needs. It needs a solid start that provides a solid foundation. In most cases, the first episode cannot be the best episode because then it's all downhill from there. It's a solid episode, but it's not the best and it's not the worst. So what better place to put it than in the fucking middle?
I actually agree. Actually, I'm looking at this listed again. I think Deep Breath's very good, but I like all the others more.
And then it was never actually fully explained why was there a dinosaur in the middle of London?
Transportation, because those clockwork creatures needed something.
Yeah, they did. The half-faced man had some reason for it being there. I can't remember. It was just a wacky way for the TARDIS to appear.
The thing I liked about the episode was that scene where they go into like the restaurant and every single person in there's like clockwork creatures.
That creeped me out when
It's
I
really
saw
good.
that.
I mean, it's a very good episode. It's just I like the others more.
And I kind of also liked the way that we got introduced to Missy, and like at the end where the half-faced guy, when he dies, he appears in the what do you call it, like the mainframe, and she's like, "Welcome to heaven."
Well, what does Price
the
think of
through
it?
line of the whole series is people who die end up going to W3 or 3W or whatever it is. Sorry, Price, what do you recommend? If you're there.
Oh wait, he's focusing on
Oh,
his
he's
building.
muted at the moment. It's fine. He's got things to do. Okay. I can put Deep Breath there. I like it a lot. There are better. I mean, it's no 11th hour. So there's that. It's probably better than the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah.
But then I really like the Christmas Invasion. It's a great episode, but Listen's better, Into the Daleks better, Time Heist is better, Mummy and the Orient Express is better, Dark Water and Death in Heaven are better.
And I think if they really wanted to have made this better, they wouldn't have wasted so much time with the Doctor being completely and totally almost borderline psychotic, right? So
But that's how you start it. That's how you provide that
because
solid
he's
foundation.
not even sure who he is, and he has that capacity to be edgy and kill something, because he does, even though it's only a clockwork, or it's the half-faced man or whatever. It's not really. I don't know if you call that murder or not. But then again, saying that, it would be like when the Dalek kills all the Daleks at the end. It's not really murder because they're not human. But so I don't know. That's a bit.
I do think having a Sontaran though as an ally, it always seems kind of weird considering what the Sontarans are all about.
Yeah, why did they turn them into allies suddenly?
Don't know. It's
He was
strange.
part of the
There
team
was no
and he got
reason really
saved.
given.
He got saved by the Doctor, basically.
Strax is an ally. Oh my god.
Was Deep Breath the one that has a cameo from Matt Smith?
Yes, right at the end. Because the whole thing is about how Clara cannot reconcile the massive difference between Matt Smith and Capaldi. And there is a very, very nice scene at the end.
It was nice, but I was surprised that they actually went through with it. Usually you have the actor go and you don't want to remind people of the previous actor or why you liked him. So
I think they were very worried about having someone that much older in the more superficial 2000s, because you've had you've had Eccleston, who's very kind of masculine. You've had Tennant, who's cool, and then you've had Smith, who's whimsical and fun, and he's in his 20s playing the role. And then you cast a guy who's like 50 plus.
I
to
can
play the
understand. I can
They're
understand why,
probably
from a
worried about
marketing
losing-
perspective, that would be a
Yeah.
problem.
That's what I think it is. I think a lot of decisions in this are made, and I think to have Matt Smith show up and endorse him was. I like that it played back to an earlier thing that happened in a previous episode or something though as well.
And then they kept on doing that thing with the coffee, where she goes, "I sent you out." He like goes and gets coffee or something. I can't remember whether it was him or whether it was Clara.
I did find it very interesting, that sort of passing of the torch, which you'd expect from a first episode.
Yeah.
The only one I could see that is at the same tier as Deep Breath would be Time Heist, and I like Time Heist probably better because it's really like it's fun, it's different, it's kind of like the Doctor's 11.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's kind of like you wanted to bring the Doctor into current day movies and everything that was hot at the time, which is like
heist movies. Yeah, it's kind of like what they did with Rick and Morty when they did that "You Son of a Bitch" episode.
But I do like that creature with the thought powers that could like detect.
That is what, if it didn't have that, it would be way lower down the list. I think that's
cool.
The fact that the whole thing was orchestrated by the Doctor to deceive himself so that they could save that thing's mate, and it's not even a heist; it's actually a rescue.
Yeah,
is very good. I really like
Finish
that.
the sentence. It's not called Deep B.
Yeah, I know. I'm just I'm just doing it until everybody is consenting and agreeing. But okay. So
is next.
Or into the Dalek.
What was Dark Water about?
Dark Water is the beginning of the finale. Danny Pink
it's part of
hit by
the
a
two-part.
car, and it has this ridiculous and yet also somehow epic scene where Clara betrays the Doctor, and then the Doctor.
Oh, right.
So the problem with it is that doesn't make any sense. That Clara, having done all that she's done and been the girl who's the key to everything and been with the Doctor for his entire life through all of his timeline, would probably not betray him just because she's fallen in love with a guy who's been hit by a car. So that is extremely hard to swallow.
Doctor, save my black boyfriend.
The net result of it is that the whole thing turns out to have been a trick. She hasn't really taken the Doctor to a volcano and thrown all the TARDIS keys in because he won't help. Because the problem is, in the scenario, she believes that she's knocked the Doctor out, woken him on this lava planet, and she's got all the TARDIS keys, and now she's extorting him and threatening him. And he's going like, well, why are you threatening me? You know, blah, blah, blah. And it's all done very, very well. The performances are both fucking excellent. And as she throws away each of the keys, the first time I saw it, I was taking it very seriously, and I really didn't know what was going to happen. After it's all played out, and it turns out that actually she was the one in the dream, and the Doctor had reversed it on her to see what she would do, and so the whole thing's played out safely inside the TARDIS, and the keys are fine and everything's fine. But now she will betray him. And that is one of the worst things that a companion has ever done to the Doctor. Probably the worst thing ever. And yet,
but can't he just click his fingers and open the bloody doors?
Well, yeah, theoretically, but apparently that's not a factor in this. But anyway, it's selective. In any case, the thing that happens afterwards is she's now basically outed as someone who will ruin everything for the Doctor on the strength of losing her boyfriend. And so that's really like you would say he'd be well within his rights to kick her out and drop her off no matter what. But they have been through so much together. Even she expects him to sod her off. And so she says, what do we do now? He says, go to hell. And then she's like, yeah, fair enough. I understand. She sort of starts crying and makes her way to the door. And then he says, what are you doing? I said, you asked me what we're going to do. I said, we're going to go to hell. And then she says, we're going to find Danny Pink, bring him back if we can.
Why would he be?
And then she's like, why are you helping me? And he says one of the most Doctor lines I've ever heard in the entire series, when he turns around to her and says, do you really think I care for you so little that betraying me would make any difference? And that is just damn heavy. I love that line. I love that scene. I love everything about it. So that's why I can't really put Dark Water so low. You know? But what do you guys think? Anyone?
It's all right.
We're lost for words, Will,
I love
because
that story.
we can't make a decision, unfortunately.
All right. Well, anyway, then. Time Heist?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Or Listen? Or Into the Dalek?
Listen is an episode which I was going to put second. I don't know how I feel about Listen. I don't know whether I like it or hate it, because it's actually a very intriguing episode. This idea of, there's a villain that can't be seen, should
Wasn't
never be
Danny
seen.
Pink
And
like a child in that episode?
Yeah, but the thing that makes me a bit on it is Clara being the one that instilled the fear within the Doctor that would lead him to run away
She
from
was the monster under
Gallifrey.
his bed.
That is a bit. But then
So
if
now
you
she's
remove
even the
those like
impetus to his
2
whole
minutes, but then if you remove those 2 minutes, it's a very good episode.
She's the one who gives him the speech about how fear is a superpower and it actually makes you better, faster, more adrenaline, and etc., which he then earlier in the episode said to a little boy, which was like Danny Pink as a child or something. They somehow went through Clara's telepathic link to the TARDIS that was established and ended up going back through Danny Pink's timeline.
I mean, if you're going to
and there's a descendant of Danny Pink who's a time traveler as well, played by the same actor. It's a bit
if you're
strange.
going to really be conspiratorial, you could look at that and you could think, okay, so this is where they finally decided we're going to start pushing the girl boss, and the Doctor's going to either have to deal with it, or we're going to gender change the Doctor, because it was that kind of whole thing where you really start to see this kind of the Doctor is secondary in his own show.
I guess as good as Listen actually is a very Marmite episode, because it's extremely clever. The chalkboard is introduced with the Doctor monologuing to himself, which is great. Capaldi on his own, just talking to himself, can carry an entire episode, as we'll see in series 9. One of the best episodes, if you want my opinion. So I guess for that, it's better than Time Heist. So I guess Time Heist then.
Well, in 9, you had a lot of heavy lifting, right? Because
Yes.
wait, which is the one where Clara is already gone and you had Bill Potts?
That's series 10.
Oh, okay. So 9 was still good. I apologize. I meant 10.
9. The episode I'm talking about is Heaven Sent, which is one of my all-time favorite pieces of television.
Yes, I know which one you mean. I thought, I think that the second that Bill Potts is introduced, and it's nothing personal, that really, for me, in my mind, marks the beginning of the end.
Me too. Yep, absolutely. She was an irritating DEI thing.
And immediately as they put her in here, they did like, it's not just that they're like, oh, there's like some diverse lady, which there have been in the past and it wasn't even an issue. It's one, and I know people can hate me on it. She didn't look the part, not because of her diversity, but because
of course not. No one had a problem with Martha.
Right, exactly. If I look at Martha looked the part. Bill Potts didn't look the part. And then, in addition to that, already, I think from the get-go, from the first episode, there's all this kind of rainbow stuff happening. Right? Am I right that it's
all the time? She never
but
shuts up about being a lesbian.
Right, but I feel like even there's a plot. There's a girl that she's in a puddle or something, some weird stuff. The second I saw that, I'm like, this is it.
This is the moment.
The end.
It's unfortunate because series 9, yes, it has Heaven Sent, and then the very next episode it plunges headlong into what we can start to see happening now, leading to now.
The stupid thing is, the character itself was written as it was meant to be a much younger person. So it was kind of like we have this person who's an adult trying to be a teenager or trying to be a very young adult, but they aren't, but they're overplaying the role. And then it's rainbow fever for the rest of all time. It was annoying.
I did not think we would get this much chat out of series 8. It's really good that we are, though. I'm enjoying myself so much. Sorry, it's going on a bit. So what then? What's next? We haven't even talked about Into the Dalek yet. I mean, what do we think?
Are you out of your mind? No, I'm inside a Dalek. That was fucking.
It is
fun.
pretty cool. I mean, I love the twist at the end.
As well as she's my carer. She cares, so I don't have to.
I love that line.
The one-liners in Into a Dalek are absolutely great.
All right, yeah, maybe Into the Daleks too. I'm just gonna put like either Time Heist or Listen then.
Yeah.
Listen.
Shout out which one. Listen.
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah.
Because I still like Time Heist because of that creature.
All right, there you go. And we're down to the final 4.
It's the final countdown.
It's got to be. Well, are we really putting the finales at the pinnacle? Because I guess I'm kind of leaning on that.
The thing with
or Mummy, I like Mummy that much.
You finally know who Missy is, and you have all of this, and it's almost like they wasted an opportunity with how they were going to approach this whole concept of W3, the idea of like the cyber heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they could have done it in a way that would, you could see like the Cybermen having this different virtual reality kind of existence where they think they're in heaven, but they're really converted to Cybermen.
Cybermen, and then deployed around the world's cities to pollinate and create Cybermen out of corpses.
Yeah, it's the Master's perfect plan to give the Doctor the immortal army he needs to stop the Daleks and to save creation.
Yes, it's that's what it turns out to be, isn't it? It's a gift for the Doctor. Yeah, it's kind of mental. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I think these are the best 2 episodes of this series.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
I don't know, Goldie. What do you reckon? You ain't said anything for a while. You usually disagree with me about these kinds of things.
Well, I'm in a very tough position because I can't really comment on any of these episodes apart from Mummy because I don't really like them. I think the finale, both of them fuckers should be down at the bottom, really. And Into the Dalek, I think, should have taken the place of Deep Breath. But Mummy, all I'll say is, because whether I like it or not, I have to go with the remaining episodes. I would say how I would order them: Death in Heaven, Dark Water, Into the Dalek, Mummy on the Orient Express.
So the opposite of what Goldie is saying should be our tier list.
So, it always goes this way. I'm sorry, Goldie. You always end up the minority. Oh well.
I don't care. I like my unpopular opinions. I love myself Deep Breath. I love myself A Christmas Carol. I love myself Twilight.
A Christmas Carol. Twilight is gay.
No, it's not.
Super gay.
You all love it. You're just too afraid.
I would
I'm not
say
afraid of a bunch of twinkling. I can't say it.
Demons.
But I would personally say Mummy on the Orient Express, Into the Dalek, Dark Water, and for once a 2-parter is on. The second parter is on top with Death in Heaven.
I can go with that. Well, although I like Dark Water better than Death in Heaven, I think.
What I liked
it's hard to say actually because they're again totally opposite. Like Dark Water's very sort of creeping along, strange things, but it does have that incredible scene that I remember probably more than anything from this series. But Death in Heaven has like it's an hour long. It has the budget. It has like the Doctor being the president of Earth, being made the president of Earth thanks to UNIT's global initiatives for this kind of scenarios. So he's flying around on a fucking Air Force One or Boat One, it's called, which I think is funny too, because it's more British. Yeah, I like it a lot, but I think Death in Dark Water was better, especially because I didn't actually see the Cybermen thing coming until the elevator doors shut. Because if you remember, the logo of 3W is a big circle with a little circle off to the diagonal left bottom of it.
So what happens is Peter Capaldi is, or the 12th Doctor is like, there's something I'm missing, and then the door closes and then that really music plays.
Because you get 2 of them. Yeah, that's great.
You know that Cyberman theme.
I love that Cyberman theme. It's fantastic. It's so simplistic, but instantly recognizable. You know, when it goes da 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 da. It's fucking
Then
awful.
you have this big kind of theoretical kind of philosophy type question where Missy is like saying, yeah, you need an army. It's nothing personal, but you do need support. This is all for you. And you have this big kind of ethical...
This collaboration between the Master and the Cybermen was a great way of rebuilding the Cybermen's reputation, especially considering Nightmare and Silver turned them into the Borg. So
they became scary again in this for the first time since Series 2.
And I think that's why the Master Cyberman alliance really stuck, because it really did work as a concept, as a parallel to, say, the Doctor and humanity. You've got the Master and the Cybermen.
And it also shows like a different side to the Doctor where he can't recognize the Master at first. Because you would then have to think, okay, so he's a Time Lord, but they can't easily recognize each other because he doesn't recognize who she is until she basically says, I miss
Even though right after they kiss, she puts his hand on her chest, and he flinches and sort of freaks out, like he's detected that that she's a Time Lord, but he's confused. Like I feel like that was a little bit. That's like the weakest thing about the whole episode is the fact that he doesn't instantly go, "You're a Time Lord." You're like, he thinks maybe because he still thinks that she's an android or whatever, an android with 2 hearts. But that's Missy trying to communicate to the Doctor that she's lying and she's actually a Time Lord. It's weird.
Hello again, old friend. That's what I would have said. Here I am.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
It would have been good if she was playing like a live action version of GLaDOS.
Yeah, that would have been good. I mean, look, Missy is a fantastic performance and a really interesting character who definitely should never have been the Master. That's just it. And if they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have set the precedent for the Doctor to regenerate into a woman straight after meeting the first time he's ever encountered the Time Lord turning into a woman. And the next one is him. How surprising!
The right character at exactly the wrong time. But I'll stand by my last 4.
So you're saying Mummy, Dalek, Darkwater, Death?
Yep.
Any objections? No? Okay, right. Well, then it seems like
just
we
how I
are
like it.
done. Mummy on the Orient Express into the Dalek. Okay. I would have flipped them personally, but that's just me. I like fun.
I would have flipped this whole fucking thing.
Yes, I know.
The Golden Age contrarian.
It's okay. We've got our own Leon.
Oh God.
Oh wait, no.
The first time I saw Leon, I was like,
Leon's
what
the
I was like,
SMH version of Lofty. That's it.
the first time I saw Leon, I was like, what the fuck is this? I got a man with extremely long hair and a bird on his shoulder. I was like, should I do this stream or not?
You got Lofty clones and you've got Words clones.
He's a character. I
like Leon. Leon's cool. And he's got good banter too. We had a lot of laughs earlier on when I was watching SNH instead of being on it. Okay, well, there you go, guys. Kill the Moon. Yeah. Dead Last, In the Forest of the Night, Robot of Sherwood. Flatline. Yeah. Caretaker, Deep Breath, Listen Time Heist, Mummy on the Orient Express. Yeah, I don't really care about any of the final 4, but I am glad that
why are you laughing, Goldie?
No, this list is torn. Oh, I can see
you
this.
Think Kill the Moon is the best episode?
No, it's better than Death in Heaven.
I'll tell you this, folks. If we ever do like a vampire,
Kill the Moon is better than Death in Heaven.
If we ever do like a vampire movie review show, we're going to put all the Twilight films on the bottom where they belong.
Let's do it. When we finish all these rankings, we'll do that next.
That can be like the Halloween episode.
Or like a horror, like a horror genre tier list, and just put Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator 2 above all the Twilight films.
Yeah, I mean, you can put Dracula Dead and Loving It by Mel Brooks way above anything that starts with Twi. Just absolutely not.
That's what they should call it.
Yeah, that's what I used to call it.
Now for the conclusion.
So there you go. Yeah, we have ranked this this series again and another, like with all of the other series as well. And sooner or later, when we finish this, we'll have 14 episodes that we, or actually more
The
than 14,
All-Stars.
15, 16 episodes that we'll be able to then rank, which will be coming up in the next few weeks. In about 6 weeks' time. Next week, though, we've got Series 9, which I have been waiting for since we began this entire process because it's Heaven Sent, and I absolutely adore Heaven Sent. So hopefully we can all make it back next week for this.
We'll be able to agree on something.
Yeah, when we agree, it's usually a very powerful thing, so that's good. That much power shouldn't be allowed freely, so we
The
never
power
agree
of
very often.
the power of one,
Power of men. The power of men.
It's the power. It's white power because they're both straight. I think straight.
I've
white
still got to
male.
do an edit of that. I've got to do an edit of that where it's that scene, and then as soon as they start to say men, I just cut to an episode of 2.5 Men with the little choir voice going, men. I need to do that. It's stupid and just for myself. But
luckily you didn't watch Agatha all along because they do another song.
I don't want to watch Agatha all anal. Thank you.
Oh, speaking of Agatha, like I commented this a couple of days ago. Like whenever I look at Agatha, whenever I look at Agatha Harkness, I always just get reminded of Missy. Like those two actresses look very similar.
Yes, they do.
Welcome
Where'd
back.
you go, Price? What happened?
What happened? And I suddenly disappeared.
I blame Will.
He slammed his fist on his table in fury about that fucking list.
Goldie hates Agatha all along because it's got lesbian space witches in it.
Yes, as opposed to gay vampires.
Where did this? I haven't talked about Agatha. No, you misunderstand.
Okay,
Twilight.
Goldie, we understand what
No,
you're
I don't misunderstand Twilight. I actually had to write a paper on it for college when I was there. Just
what
as
a treat!
troll. My mentor and former tutor / professor did it just to troll us. So I had to write the merits of Twilight and the negatives, and of course the merits were like mechanical stuff about how the films were okay, and then the negatives were the story, the characters, the writing, the original books, everything.
And then he said you're a fucking imbecile and you don't understand media.
No. I got the triple distinction on that course actually, Goldie. I'm
We
the
should
first
fire his
person
ass.
to ever get that grade. And the last.
And then the other thing I noticed was they're now casting for the new Harry Potter remakes. Diversity. They're going to sex change Harry Potter.
There you go. Time for outros, guys. I'm sure some of you guys want to get on with the rest of your lives. So, yeah, let's begin with our guest, Price of Reason. Would you like to plug your stuff?
First of all, my YouTube channel, Price of Reason. That's a good thing to subscribe to. If you're especially into more kind of experimental and live stream stuff, then I have Price of Reason Live. And of course, I'm on Twitter and a few other places. But the main YouTube, Price of Reason, that's what I recommend.
Super. Good things to be found there. Rev?
Well, congratulations, ladies, gents, aliens, and like-minded individuals of common sense. We've come to the end of another episode of Ranking Doctor Who, and we survived, barely. I'll be doing live streams as usual. I'll also be on Reality Extreme later today with Ryan, so come join us over there.
Don't butcher the show's fucking name.
I was
Reality-based Extreme.
Is it reality based?
You've done that on
He says
every
it
single
so often.
stream.
I
like to cut it
just
short
calling
just
it
so I can
reality
be
extreme.
speedy.
Yeah, we've had
RBX.
We've had many variations. It's been once you said I'm going to be on Reality, then it was Reality Extreme, and then
over to you, Goldie, up there somewhere.
Yeah, so it's been a great stream. I know it may seem a little heated at times, but I do kind of ramp up the performative stuff just to make it a little bit more entertaining for myself as well. But season 9 will be a good discussion to have because I think we'll agree on many of those stories and whether they're trash or really good. So that'll be fun. Later today, I've actually I haven't filmed it just yet, but I got the script finished a couple of hours ago. I'm gonna do a video talking about because I know you did a video, Will, on the whole was William Hartnell the first Doctor? That sort of that article that was discussing that, and I've done a similar thing, but I've actually taken that premise and I've kind of just extrapolated it and kind of turned it into a wider discussion about canon in Doctor Who and, you know, the fandom's perspective on that. So I'm going to have a video on that out later. And that'll be a much longer video. I dare say it may be like 10 or so minutes, which is very unlike me, but I had a lot to say. So, so you can check that out. I'm only about 50 subs away from 3,000. So if you haven't already, please go and subscribe, and I would love you forever. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. On to Ryan.
Dial up the white power. Here we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching this episode of WhoTF Live. Always a pleasure. And go and check out my channel, Ryan Roger Athay, host and founder of Reality Based. Everyone is welcome. We are right in the middle of 2,750 subscribers. We've grown far more than I originally expected for this year. We might just hit 3,000 by the end of the year. But that's probably too much of a lofty goal, for lack of a better term. But the more subscribers, the better. Everyone's welcome. We're making plenty of videos for today. We're going to have a large panel show for Reality-Based Extreme. You're going to see 6 straight white males catching up and exploring topics of the day. And hopefully we can slay some progressive ponces together. So
beautiful.
Enjoy. Now on to wait. Before we move on to Will of the Fans, I created a custom logo for Will, and that ball is where the reality-based logo will be when Will retires or passes away, and then we'll start a show called Reality-Based or Will of the Fans. I'll be reality-based, and you'll all be.
Why does it have a vagina?
What? Where? What?
At the bottom.
Oh, that's a stand. That's the stand.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. And thank you to Eris Rhoda for gifting 5 Will of the Fans memberships. You lucky people. Much appreciated. It is good. The memberships are always well appreciated. The more people have memberships, the more people will be able to engage with more of my stuff, which is great.
If I get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I will play Dustborn.
Shave your head
live.
I bet you'll.
And
get
I'll cut all my hair off. Yeah,
shave your head. Yeah.
If I get to 3,000 by the end of this year, I'll do all that. I'll play Dustborn.
There you go, ladies and gents.
I'll cut off my
hair.
All right,
guys, we've got to get him to 3,000.
All right, we'll have to introduce him to like Geeks and Gamers or something, so that because they shout out everybody they work with, except me. Anyway, there you go. So, yeah, of course, I'm Will of the Fans. You've been watching my channel, so you're probably already subscribed. On the off chance you're not, I'm only 197 away from 8,000, so that's pretty nice. I would like to hit that or 9,000, if not 10 by the end of the year. We'll see what happens, especially when Christmas comes, and we'll have a fresh batch of hellish, lava-filled, gay nonsense from Doctor Who to deal with. So that will be fun.
Beat it down into the ground.
Oh, we'll smash it to pieces. I'm sure it'll be terrible.
I was expecting Ryan to say something like, "You're not going to be beating anyone, Dobby."
Yeah,
he missed that opportunity.
He's done a face turn. He's on his good behavior now. I like this. People are liking
the Necron tier. I can't function.
Anyway, thank you to everybody in the chat who's been checking this out. I can see all of you having a very active discussions throughout this show, which I love to see. Of course, thank you very much to everybody who is a member, everybody who gifted. Of course, Eris Rhoda, TJEP Steve, who also are mods. So thank you, doing God's work there for me. Very important work indeed. Depending on how you guys think I should proceed, I may at Smash JT's recommendation move Doctor Who content to a separate channel. I haven't decided on that yet, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it. It might be better for this channel if Doctor Who's not stealing all the algorithm points away from the other content, but I don't know. It could be doomsday for the channel at the same time. So I haven't decided yet, but let me know what you think. And of course, yeah, that's about it. There is a video out as of 19 minutes ago. There'll be another one in about 4 hours time, and then I will be back to grinding them out as of Monday morning my time. So there'll be plenty for you lovely people tomorrow and every other day until doomsday. So thank you very much for watching. Nothing else to do but wave rather sillily at the camera and say see you next time.
Wakanda forever.
Bye.